You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
Well, good Wednesday morning, everybody. I am Glenn the Geek in Ocala, Florida.
And I'm Jamie Jennings in Norman, Oklahoma. You're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for Wednesday, November 29th, episode 3312. Good morning, horse people.
Ah, Wednesday, the day we cover Glenn's favorite topic, horse health. And Jamie makes you feel better about yourself with the latest weird news from around the world. Happy Wednesday.
Well, I got to tell you, it's really Horse Health Day today. We're going all the way to Ireland with Dr. Martina Neidhart talking about kissing spine. She's somebody I guess you came across.
Uh-huh.
And you've dealt with kissing spine a lot in the last couple of years. And Dr. Kate Workman's going to discuss body lameness. She's doing some seminars down here in Ocala, and we asked her to come on and talk about her view on, which is a little bit different. Plus, I'm going to start telling you about Scooter's rough Thanksgiving Day, and you had a first ride on Pharaoh, plus some weird news, all coming up. Thanksgiving Day. So we went out Wednesday to the property to camp, and we thought we'd stay there over Thanksgiving and come back Saturday, which is what we did. Except it got, we're kind of rough camping anyway because we have no water or electric. We just have what the camper has battery-wise and a generator. Well, Thanksgiving Day, we get up, and it was a beautiful day, and we thought, let's take the ponies out, and we'll do a ride drive first thing in the morning. And it's about maybe 9 o'clock or a little after. And there's properties all around us. And the guy behind us does a lot of target practice in his property, directly behind us.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, well, the horses are so used to it because where we lived before, we had a gun range. They heard gunshots all the time. It was never a problem. They don't even look up. So, and they've been out there when he's shot many times. Well, we get Scooter all hooked up in the cart. Jennifer's all saddled up, and Jennifer holds Scooter when we get the cart hooked up to him, and then she lets go when I'm in the cart, and I just go right around while she gets on. And soon as she let go, the first shot went off at the next door neighbor property, and it wasn't a pistol. It was a shotgun or a rifle, and it was loud. And Scooter just lost his marbles. And, he doesn't even react in the field when they're shooting, but he lost his marble. And I mean, it was 1 second after Jennifer let go. So he lost his marbles. He bolted. He headed, I was trying to steer him as best I could. And he hasn't bolted in a long time, so he caught me off guard because it's been a while. And then he started heading to the camper and to the dining fly we had set up and to the truck. And I went we managed to get between all of those without wrecking anything. And then I just got him to turn, and I kept turning him, and of course the guy kept shooting. And we went round and round in circles for about 5-10 minutes until he basically wore himself out in the sand. But it was a wake-up call on Thanksgiving.
God, that is terrifying. And again, this is what I found so scary about driving. I was like, dude, you can't, if a horse bolts, you can turn them. And you can't do that with a cart. You can run them into a fence. You can't do that in a cart. You'll be sitting in front of them by the time you stop. It's so scary.
And it's been years since this had happened. And as I said, they hear gunfire all the time. But it was just a combination of we had just gotten hooked up and
it probably scared you and scared Jennifer.
Yeah.
Everybody's adrenaline spiked. And
exactly.
he was like, oh my God, run.
Exactly. We knew we weren't going anywhere. The property's perimeter fenced, but still, thank God a couple of things. We were going outside the property right on the roads. Thank God we hadn't just gotten outside the gate on the road.
Okay, so being a steward of horse training, What did you do after you got him stopped?
I basically drove him around, and he settled down enough that even with the shooting, he was able to drive around.
Oh, so you didn't just quit?
No, you can't do that. Now, this gets back to why this happens, and Jennifer had to remind me. I said, why does he do this when he hears the gunfire all the time, doesn't even look up? And she said, you got to remember how the Hackneys are trained. They try and get him up. They put firecrackers. They do all that stuff when they're harnessed and in the cart. So that made a lot of sense after. It's the whole Helgestrand thing there, the dressage article that's been making the rounds. It's just, I wish we could get to a point where we don't do that kind of training with horses. And, it's every discipline. It's not just, it's not just Hackneys, it's dressage, and every other discipline out there has its bad actors. But that's why he did it, because he had just gotten harnessed up, and he's still a little bit high when he gets harnessed up. And that's the way they want him. They want him all bright and alert and, high stepping and all of that stuff. But it'd
be nice if you could stop them. That would be, a bonus.
Yeah. Well, which is probably why he flunked out of showing and ended up at an auction, is because of that.
Or it's somebody's Craigslist ad, right?
Exactly. Well, it ended up, I think he went through an auction and then ended up at this dump in Florida. So I don't know, but then, we managed to walk him around the next couple of days, and the guy must have shot 12 times on Thanksgiving Day. I don't know if he had friends over or what, but we're going to try and locate him. I don't mind if he shoots, but we're going to try and locate him and see if he could just text us before he starts.
Yeah.
So we'd know, everybody out there shoots. It's rural, it's just the way it is. But then that wasn't it. So then we come in to the camper and we're making our lunch, we're making proper Thanksgiving dinner at our campsite and
there's more?
Oh yeah, we're not done yet. So then I look down on the floor of the living quarters and there's water. And I was like, oh, there's a puddle. Where's the puddle coming from? So I get under the couch, crawl under the couch, take the drawer out, crawl under the couch, and the water pump, which you have to use when you're not hooked up to city water, is leaking. And it's not the line, it's the pump. So the pump shot, so we had to turn that off. So for the next several days, we didn't have water in the trailer. We had to use basically horse water for everything we were doing. And then, we have batteries on the trailer, but you have to charge them up every couple of days. They run the lights and heater and that kind of stuff. And we charge them with the generator. That day, the generator died and wouldn't run anymore. So that was our Thanksgiving day, was leaky water, bolting pony, and a dead generator.
The good news is it can only go up, right?
Yeah, that's
come on.
We're supposed to go, Jennifer calls it type B fun. So it was definitely type B fun.
You're like, do we really want to do Christmas here?
So we're going to do, in 2 weeks, we're supposed to go there for a week because our horse sitters are they're leaving. So we're going to take the horses up there. But we need to get the generator fixed first and the water pump. So we're working on that. But then we got home and I had to, do a sprint to get ready for Radiothon on Saturday. But we stayed. We were roughing it, boy. We didn't have a shower for 2 days. I'll tell you what.
Wow, that is so first world of you.
It is.
So third world of you, really.
We have a bunch of auditor birthdays getting caught up on them, I think. Marlene Lowenberger, Father Mac. Happy birthday, Father Mac. Debbie Marcus, Amy Lathy, Amy, and then Mo Meyer. Hey, Mo, happy birthday to you, too, down there in Texas. And I also wanted to thank everybody that participated in the Radiothon, all the listeners who sent in songs and poems, and all the hosts and everybody, the sponsors, and congratulations to all the prize winners. We had some very happy people. So it went off as well as we could have expected on our first video version of it. 6 hours was the right length. I only felt half dead the next day and not totally dead. So might have been some of the bottle of Prosecco I drank, too.
I was going to say, did you really drink a whole bottle of Prosecco?
Yeah, I pretty much did. And I didn't realize it because you know how that happens. It just happens one glass at a time. Yeah, I did.
the challenges of being a parent-child, a couple thousand miles away continue. So my brother, my mom is having some issues. And so my brother has moved in with her, taken her into his home and is taking care of my mom, which is just amazing and wonderful. And being that they're in Florida and I'm in Oklahoma, I can't seem to, get there every day to look after her needs. And one thing that they did need for this new house that they rented together was a washer dryer. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy it. I'll just pay for it. You go pick one out and go buy it and I'll send you a check. So I'm going through my accounts because I've been Cyber Monday shopping, and I'm like, there's $1,000 that has not been taken out that I've been trying to mentally prepare for, because that's a big chunk. So out of my checking account. So I can see it. So I texted my brother this morning again, you know what, cherish your health and your parents' health, because sometimes it's just going to get challenging. And so I texted my brother and I was like, hey, Josh said you got the check in the mail, but I don't see where you cashed it. And he wrote back, I never got a check, but if you mailed it, Mom has a bad habit of getting the mail and just throwing everything away. She thinks everything is junk and she just throws all the mail away.
She's 90% right. Most of it is junk.
Maybe you want to keep that check for $1,000 maybe from your daughter. That might be something if it's addressed to Mom, you may want to open it. It's probably not junk. So so I just saved myself $1,000. Just kidding. I'm gonna.
You're good now.
I'm like, Justin, can you please get a Venmo or something? Just literally join the 21st century, please.
PayPal,
just
something.
Insta message you the money, please. But anyway,
join
Mom,
the 20th century and get a PayPal.
I mean, exactly. 20th, 21st, whatever. I'll Cash App you. I don't have that one, but I'll get it. Whatever you need, I will get to be able to just directly give you this money, because apparently my mom gets the mail and puts it all in the trash.
I have accidentally almost thrown away important things though before, because they all look like junk now.
I know.
And nobody gets checks in the mail anymore.
No, and then the ones that I open them up and I'm like, oh, they got me. Because it looks like somebody wrote a letter, it's like hand
It's usually
printed.
a car dealer that does those tricky ones too.
Exactly. It's like, Jamie, thanks. And you open it up.
We want to buy your car. It's never we want to sell you a car. It's we want to buy your car. But
we want to buy your car, but while we do that, we're going to sell you one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hey, how about we talk about Pharaoh? I want to talk about your first ride in Pharaoh. We'll do that after our guests, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, because I saw the pictures, and we'll post a picture of it in our show notes today, too. And we'll find out if he's a good boy or not. As the holidays approach and you're decking the stables with festive cheer, don't let those pesky rubber mats dampen your holiday spirit. They're a pain to clean, they're hard on your horse's hooves, and they just don't add much to the holidays. This year, give your horse and yourself the gift of WERM flooring systems. The sleigh this is Ashley. This is Ashley that wrote this. The sleigh-tastic solution for your trailer, barn, or other commercial or residential space.
That doesn't even make sense. It's sleigh-tastic.
WERM flooring systems are like a holiday miracle for your floors. Non-porous and slip-resistant, cushioned and textured, safe and seamless, extremely durable. It reduces shock and fatigue and insulates your trailer as well. So this holiday season, ditch the rubber mats and upgrade to WERM flooring systems. Your horses and your wallet will thank you. Visit wormflooring.com to learn more about WERM flooring systems and to find a dealer near you. And happy holidays from WERM Flooring Systems. And I know some of our listeners are looking at getting it right now. They were posting about that. So
treat yourself, man. It is amazing. I love it so much. I'm so happy I have it. Well, let's get our first guest on. I'm so excited to talk to Dr. Martina Neidhart. And some of you guys probably recognize her name because she is one of the most generous with being on the Facebook page, Horse Vet Corner. She's always helping people, answering questions. And that is where I actually found you. So good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Thank you for that very nice introduction.
You didn't know you were famous, okay?
No.
Famous with horse people for sure. I mean, so one of the things that I saw, which I have been dealing with a lot for the last couple of years, and I'm kind of dealing with now, is kissing spine. And somebody had posted some X-rays of their horse, some radiographs, and saying that their horse was diagnosed. Which one would you do, the bone shave or the ligament snip? And I thought your answer was one of the best answers I've ever seen, and I learned so much. So let's take it from there. Like, if you were to answer her question, let's have a discussion, what would you tell her?
First of all, we need to know how was it diagnosed, because X-rays do not tell us a lot. 80% of the horses who have no back problems will have changes to their dorsal spinous process on the X-rays. So that is massive. So without clinical signs, there's no evidence that those kissing spines, that we call them, are actually a problem. So the first thing is to differentiate between X-rays and horses who have a clinical presentation of back pain in that area. Then there is what is the underlying issue for that? Because yes, there is a very, very small minority of horses, and you can test them genetically for kissing spine, but they usually show clinical signs of pain already at the very, very early stage. That means a year or 2 year old. What we have now in most of the horses where we see kissing spine, they're older, they're ridden, and then the question is, why do they develop it? Kissing spines are usually secondary to an underlying issue. Like I said, the only primary case that we have is congenital one, and all the rest is secondary. So if you would just treat a clinical sign, because that's what kissing spines are, you are not doing the horse a favor long term. I'm coming from a part of vet medicine where we do a lot of rehab and preventative medicine, and that's why I like to look for the underlying reason. And there's many, many options that can cause kissing spine, and usually, like I said, kissing spine is secondary to another issue. Do you want to go more into detail what those issues are?
I think that's what surprised me was how many times you said it is secondary to other issues. Because if you look at some radiographs, so we're going to discuss my young thoroughbred here in a minute, Dr. Neidhart, but on X-rays, he presented with not kissing spine, but some of his back issues. The spine's processes were a little too close together. And what we discussed, he had just come off the track, and what we had discussed with the veterinarian in Kentucky was he's been working with his head up and on his forehand and running kind of in a U shape where he needs to be in a C shape, One of the things we talked about was to work him in the correct posture and to let him kind of relax and let those tense muscles relax, and then see where we are in a year of just doing some physical therapy. And so that I know was one thing, because you were very adamant that these surgeries are not really proven or may not help in every situation.
No, and if you look at the success rate that you have, anything between 60 and 70% success rate, that tells you already that it can't be the primary issue, because otherwise you would have 90% or 100% success rate. And we have very kind of 30% failure rate is quite high. That means every third horse you do the operation on will not profit from it. Just to be clear, these are very high numbers in my opinion. So we have to see what is causing it. And what you described in off the track thoroughbreds, we do have several problems leading to those very narrow gaps or even kissing spines. Like you said, how a lot of them are trained and are running. They're running with speed. They get balance from speed, but not from strong core muscles, at least the majority of those horses. Then through the pounding of the speed onto the hoofs, and often they do have quite a weak hoof capsule because there is a lot of concussion going through those feet at the very young age when the cartilage is not finished growing. So they compress the cartilage and their digital cushion. So you get a very low to even negative plantar angle. This will cause more stress because, like, if they have low PAs, especially in the hinds, we know that that causes problems along the whole dorsal myofascial lines that we have, deep and the superficial. So you get the problems in the feet where you rarely see them in the hinds, but you get suspensory problems, you get hock problems, you get stifle problems, you get problems in the muscles of the hindquarters, so especially the gluteal. There is a study who proves that. You have SI problems, and you have lumbar fascia problems, like the big thoracic lumbar fascia that's holding everything together and is responsible for transmitting forces from the hind end to the front. So this is just from improper foot balance, what we often have with them. And you can try that yourself if you stand up and kind of like stand on your heels. That is the same tension, or puts tension on the same line. Your back is automatically going in a kyphosis. So that means your dorsal spinal processes will getting close together, even if we are biped and horses are quadruped, but it's the same line that gets the same tension. And this is what's happening to the horses. So correct posture is absolutely important for those horses to even build up strong core muscles. The other thing is, when they have been running for a while like that, or moving for a while like that, we do get instability of the whole spinal cord and the bones, the bones of the spine itself. So we can get facet arthritis. This is something that's often overlooked and happens much earlier than actually the kissing spine. And what happens when we have arthritis or problems in the nerve innervation due to problems in that area, the little muscle, the multifidi muscle, atrophies. That means we get an instability there. If we have an instability there, we will get facet arthritis. The horses start to splint and go into a compensation pattern, and that's what we usually see. And that's when you have the kissing spine. The problem is it's very difficult in certain areas to X-ray that because it's just such a big mass, we can't see it. And but that is often, now that where we have more and more people doing dissections on horses and looking at bones and stuff like that, we actually see, oh my God, so many horses do have spondylosis. And there is more and more pathology emerging saying, oh yes, horses can have disc prolapse. It's just a little different than what it is in humans because it's not the same anatomy of the discs. But these are things that can happen and that are like underlying issues for their compensation pattern. So just to cut the dorsal spinal ligament or some of the interspinous ligaments, what you do when you do the so-called snips is like giving more instability to an area that's already unstable. And that's why even the surgeons who do those operations, they say you need to do rehab in addition to the surgery. And that is like the most important thing. Otherwise, we will not have success. So they are aware that there's more going on and you need the stability of the back because you need targeted exercises to build up multifidi again, because once it's atrophied, if you do not do targeted exercises and stop the inflammation in that area, it will not come back.
So that begs the question, what are some of the exercises? Like, I know my veterinarian gave me kind of an idea of like working long and low and I long line him over elevated trot poles and, using the Pessoa system and just getting him moving, going up hills, things like that to get him moving in core strength. So what are some of the things that first of all, let me back up. Where are you right now? Because I hear a little Scottish accent.
I'm originally from Switzerland. Then I used to work in Scotland for a while, for several years, and now we're in Ireland. So,
oh my God,
she has all
you're
three
everywhere.
accents all in one.
I kept hearing like something
I've
kind
been
of like
traveling a lot.
European. Yeah. Oh, so interesting to listen to you talk, by the way. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So anyway, sorry. So what are some of the exercise? I just had to get that out there. So I was so distracted trying to figure it out. So
just long and low is not ideal, because if your horse, it depends what you define as long and low. If long and low means the head is down on the ground, that's wrong. Because then they still go, because they put too much tension on it and go onto the forehand, they still can work in a back that is not engaged. They can cheat. Horses are absolute world champions in compensation. And they will do what's the easiest and not often what's the best, especially if it's difficult for them in the beginning. So the head should be somewhere around the chest, and then stretch forward, but not too deep, because if they go too deep, they just compensate and cheat.
Sure. We're not looking for Western pleasure, quarter horse, nose on the ground kind of thing. We want nice forward, over the back, engaged, forward motion in the correct place.
And any kind of equicourse system, no matter which one you're going to use, because there is now a lot on the market from the original equicourse systems that Narrell Stop and Hilary Clayton developed. There is like very nice research there showing how you can engage those critical core muscles, how it helps develop multifidi and stuff like that. So this is really a good one. And it's more efficient than a Pessoa system, because the horse can actually stretch in all directions while engaging from behind. While when you have a Pessoa system, every time the hind leg goes towards the back, it will pull in its mouth in the front on the contralateral side. Okay. Just because everything is together in a cycle. That's why I prefer the equibands. And you can, in horses who are very weak, you can just start with the belly strap, and later when they get stronger and need to engage more from behind, you can use the hind straps in addition. There's also
I've got one of those.
There's also some way you can start to help them with the rib cage when they're too weak in the thoracic sling. So when you can use that up, or you can use beads. They're also a very nice tactile stimulus that you can use just to help them, depending on where the weakness is in the horse. And, some do have like anatomical variations or problems, like ECVM is something that's now more and more discussed and more accepted as being more than just an anatomical variation, depending on how it looks. These horses will all have back problems who have ECVM. In one
I'm
way
looking
or the other.
Equine complex vertebral malformation. Okay, ECVM. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yes. So, what were you saying? Something about beads? You were saying something about? I didn't understand.
Have you ever heard about the beads? These are like tactile stimulus. So you have like a big ring around the chest or a low thing, and then there's like little. It looks like little cords with a little bead at the bottom. So every time the horse is moving, the bead hits the chest. So what it does is it tells them, they get more awareness for that area, and that makes them use their body a little bit better.
I'm looking that one up. I'll try to find that. I don't see that. Maybe you can send me a link to one of it after we're done. So
I will.
Okay, and so with that,
and then cookie stretches.
Oh yeah,
cookie stretches are absolutely brilliant. And there's How to Train Your Horse's Core. I think it's from Hilary Clayton and Narrell Stops. It's a very nice picture book. It's available again, where they tell you how to do those exercises and how to hold them. Usually it's 5 repetitions for at least 5 days a week. And these repetitions, you hold them for sometimes it's just 1 second. Ideally, you would hold them for 5 seconds. But, don't do all of them at once, because often the horses, especially in the beginning, they're not able to do 5 correct repetitions at once because they're just getting tired. So you can do that. Perhaps if you go to your horse and say hello, do one of these stretches to all the directions, like say left hind to the hock, ventral down, and right to the side, or something like that. And then just combine. And then the next time is after you having cleaned him, and then before you mount him, after you've ridden him, and before you say goodbye. And that is like 5 times where you did those exercises, and it did the correct one, and you have to hold them for 5 minutes, because the more often you do that, but the less intense, the muscle has more time to recover and can build up faster. Does that make sense?
Yes. And so that I'm going to email you for a copy of this book you're talking about, and for the beads and all these different therapies that we can do, because this is definitely, it's like, I don't know if it's always been around or it's a new thing. I mean, it just seems like in the last 10 to 15 years, it has become an endemic problem with all of our horses. So this is all fantastic information. I could talk about this forever with you, and we could keep going. But so, no, it's great. So I would love to have you on maybe for a follow-up as well, but also to get these links and to make sure that everybody understands where they can go. And if anybody who needs to get a hold of you and has further questions, where can we find you?
We have a Facebook page that's called Irish Equine Performance and Podiatry, because my partner is a farrier, because like I said, we do see a lot of foot problems, and also together, for the rehab, or they have a tendon injury or something like that. And often podiatry goes together with the rehab. If you do not have a correct balance in your foot, you will have problems with rehab for no matter what kind of problems you are rehabbing.
Gotcha.
Oh, one last thing that everybody can do, and you don't need an extra thing, if I'm allowed to say, is like wither wiggles or balancing. Just hold the withers and gently rock them from the left to the right and from the back to the front. This is engaging the whole thoracic sling, and you can do the same when you put your hand on their SI joint or their sacrum, and just push them forward and backwards, left and right. If you watch them just with very little pressure and very little sway, you can see how they have to engage their core muscles and how their abdominals are contracting and their chest muscle. And if they're relaxed, you can see it even down to their ears. You can see the whole body moving without moving. And these are core muscle exercises. That's something you can even do with a horse that had a colic surgery and is now down to box rest, or had another injury and can't move. The same with surefoot path. You can engage those core muscles without moving a lot, especially in the beginning. These are so important.
I love it. I saw that you were a fan of surefoot pads as well, and my horse lives on those. So again, thank you so much. Dr. Neidhart, this has been an amazing amount of information, and I think you need to write a book. That's it.
This Horse Health Report is brought to you by Daily Dose Equine, non-GMO core nutrition for horses and ponies of all ages. Next up is Dr. Kate Workman, and you are out of Georgia, am I right?
I'm actually out of North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina. Okay.
Yep.
But you're doing some talks down here in Ocala, and that's what I noticed, and why I wanted to have you on was the subject of your talks. But tell us a little bit about what's going on as far as the talks are concerned.
Sure. So I'm helping Dr. Audrey DeClue do a series and talks. She does a podcast, the Horse First podcast, and it had generated a lot of traffic. It's how I actually found her. And we decided to finally do kind of a conference that is open to owners, veterinarians, body workers. We had a pretty good mix at the first one. Just kind of going over what we call body lameness. It's not really a recognized topic for a lot of horse owners, but once you start educating people on it, they realize that most horses have some degree of body lameness or injuries going on that causes some movement patterns or muscling asymmetries that occur. And our goal was just kind of bring awareness of it. And so we wanted to start with, of course, the first, what is normal? Because unfortunately, especially in performance horses, none of them are really normal, and to be expected, right? Because they're athletes and all athletes have injuries over time. But until you can recognize what is dysfunction or what is not dysfunction, then we can't really proceed any farther, right? It's the basis for starting to evaluate a horse.
Well, and we all know, we do the endurance show here and we talk a lot about baseline too, because they always are looking at, heart rate and how fast they come down and all those things. But that's beyond that, right?
Yeah. So this first one was mainly postural stances. For instance, right, if your horse always points a left front, that's not normal. That is your horse trying to tell you that something's wrong, or they always rest a hind leg, or they sit against the wall in their stall, or, various posture abnormalities. So we started with that. And then looking at shoulder symmetry and thoracic sling symmetry. And we wanted to go into some of those things in order to give people an idea of clues that their horse is really giving them to what areas of their body might be dysfunctional or need some help.
It's interesting because we've had, I don't know if you know Dr. Wendy Ying, but she's been on our show for the last 10 years, and she's a traditional vet, but also a Chinese medicine vet. And that, she always talks about the first thing they do when they go out to a call is they do what they call their body checkup. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're looking at all those points.
Exactly. Like when we have a horse come for an evaluation here in North Carolina, I watch them get off the trailer and then they have to stand in a stall. And people always think we're just chit-chatting for a while, but I watch them in a stall. How do they stand? How do they move about? How do they lower or raise their head? How do they chew? All of these things are clues to try and give us an idea of what's going wrong in an area that traditional medicine can't image, right? So I can't get an MRI of a horse's back to know what's going on, but they give subtle clues. And so we really wanted to raise awareness to that, because just like anything else, prevention is always best. And so if we can get people to recognize what is normal in their horse and what is abnormal, and then address that when it's a mild issue, we can really make headway versus something that's been going on for years and years.
But, that's hard because it's like anything else. We're with the horse all the time. So if there's very gradual things that are changing, you don't always notice it because you've been there with them every day, and that gradual thing's been gradual, right?
Exactly. That, I think, is actually less common than the owner that noticed all these things, but never was told they were important, right? So your horse, a rider knows the horse. The grooms are normally really, especially good grooms, know, oh yeah, so-and-so always sits on the left bucket in his stall. They know those things. They're just not aware that that is a clinically relevant information. And I think most owners that I deal with are like, well, I've always brought up that the horse always rests his left hind, but nobody ever made a note of it. Nobody ever cared. Nobody ever worried that my left rein was always tighter than my right rein, or, very subtle things. I think we've talked ourselves out of them being important. And a good, astute horse person notices, they just didn't realize it was important. And so they don't bring it up. I do for sure have some owners that, I'll go, has it always done this? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But I would say, actually, I think a lot of owners and riders and grooms really actually know their horses, and they have been disenchanted by veterinarians not really listening to those types of concerns. Yeah, right. That if they brought up a bump, right? Okay, my horse popped a splint. Everybody can talk about that. But when somebody goes, the left scapula has always been a little bit more bulged than the right, most conventional veterinarians aren't really sure what to do with that. And so nobody brings it up anymore.
Are you traditional Chinese as well as that?
I am not, only partially because I just haven't had time to dive into that.
Well, you're going to be down here. The Chi Institute is right there.
I know. And I've done their prereqs, and then I just get behind. But I have a really good Chinese medicine vet that's close to us and works on all my rehab horses. And it's a critical part. Audrey is certified. And it's definitely a critical part. It's just something I haven't gotten to my test right now.
It's interesting because the Chi Institute or university now they do our show once a month. So they had an episode that came out yesterday, I believe. So I've learned a lot doing that over the last 10 years.
Well, Glenn, you should go ahead and get certified. Come on.
That's okay. I'll let that to the doctors. So what if you're a horse owner, what would be the one or two, we don't have time for the whole list, but the things that should really jump out to us, following up on what you said before, the hind leg, what would be the one or two things that we should look for and go, okay, that's something I need to address?
For me, I think most dysfunction starts in the thoracic sling, or what we call the shoulder girdle, because I'm going to include lower neck, early thoracic, as well as the thoracic sling in that section. That happens because we ride them before they're physically fit. Saddle fit is questionable in a lot of cases. And I think the hallmark of dysfunction there begins with scapular asymmetry. So if you stand behind your horse, look down their back and look at their two scapulas, or hold up your phone and take a picture if you can't see, your horse's scapulas should be symmetrical. They should be even. They shouldn't be displaced. They should have even trapezius muscle coverage. And frequently I notice with horses is that started to happen. Let's say the left scapula gets larger and larger and larger. Well, that is the more painful side normally. That is the originating side. And then what ends up happening is the horse overloads the right front. So then you get a low right front foot and you get a tall left front foot. And that happens and that happens. And then the horse suddenly has a navicular or a tendon problem in the right front, when really it started with the left scapular becoming dysfunctional. And so that's a photo that I always encourage people to take. It's a great tracker of how your horse is doing, if rehab or physical therapies are working. And it's a good indicator that something is going wrong when they've gone from symmetrical to suddenly asymmetrical. And it's a good place to go, okay, I need to take a step back and listen to that. And then I would say secondary to that is to listen to your horse walk on a hard surface and just walk. But horses will give you clues that they're weighting one side more than the other. And there's a lot that can be attained from a walk. And unfortunately, we just don't watch horses walk enough.
I know, but that is one thing.
Places.
It's interesting. I always listen to the horse walk. I mean, granted, half the time I'm just seeing if they have a loose shoe, but I mean, that is really telling just how they clip, clump, in one hit.
Exactly. They walk out of the stall and they'll trip on one front foot coming out of the stall, right? The one front foot catches the edge of the stall and then they go pum, 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 and you can hear them. And that horse might jog and flex perfectly sound, but something is not normal. And so those are really good places to kind of start with, I would say. And I think that's where most dysfunction happens. And then the hind end becomes dysfunctional because it's taking the brunt of the front end starting to deteriorate and everything like that. But those would be the starting points for me is I tell my clients to create a horse journal and once a month take confirmation shots in the back shot of your horse. Because like you brought up earlier, when you look at them every day, like our rehabs that live here, when you look at them every day, you might not notice these incremental changes, but if you can go back to 6 months ago and compare photos, well, then you have a basis to go, oh, wow, it didn't used to be like that, or it changed within this time frame. And so I always encourage people to keep a horse journal of what is going on, what therapies helped, what didn't help, farrier changes, right? If all of a sudden your horse needs a wedge on a front foot, well, something has changed. And the horse journals really help people keep on top of that.
Jamie trains thoroughbreds off the track and retrains them for, find new homes. And Jamie, I bet you almost every one that comes in crooked, what she's talking about looking from the back.
I just between her and the last guest, I learned so much, and I have so much to work on, really, is what you're telling me. So much homework.
And the thoroughbreds are, they're an interesting cohort of patients because the racing industry does so much damage to them. And I'm not bashing the racing industry. I grew up with racehorses. I grew up in that world. But until we realize that you had a top athlete as a 2, 3, 4-year-old, that means their body has taken a brunt. like the best training, the best whatever, it still takes a brunt. It's the equivalent of a human gymnast. They were super competitive at 16. By 2022, they're kind of phasing out of that phase. And I think for thoroughbreds, if people appreciated and recognized what had happened to them, what physical ailments had happened in their bodies, and then go, okay, well, I know these things are wrong. Let's, figure out a way to go forward. I think that's a huge thing in the thoroughbreds. I could get on a huge tangent about thoroughbreds, which I'm not going to, but
well, that's one thing I love about them is because they have done this job as a youngster, and you say they're ready to move on. I feel like so often people think that these thoroughbreds are you get them off the track and they're these fire breathing dragons. And no, most of the time they just want to calm down. They just want to focus on something else. They don't all want to just blast all the time. I mean, most of them don't. I've started over 150 of them, and all of them are so grateful to not do that job anymore. Granted, they love it when they're doing it and that's their thing and they're trained for it and fit for it. But when they come off the track, they are ready for a second career. They all look forward to doing something different. And part of the thing is you just have to prove to them that their world has changed and prove to them that their body is not going to feel the things it's felt before, and their brain is not going to be put in the situations that it was put before. So I think that all of it ties together. And
I think that happens in any discipline. If you take a reining horse or a cutter that was super competitive and hauled across the country as a young horse, when they transition into a second career, you have to be with them in that transition, that their life has changed. Those horses haven't had turnout. They haven't had basic horse functions. And giving them that time to kind of readjust is critical.
I agree.
Well, this has been very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. If people want to attend the lecture here in Ocala, it's going to be at the Marriott.
Yep.
And your first one, I understand, is November 18th and 19th. Is it a series?
Yeah. So the first one was November 18th and 19th. That should be, by next week, should be available to view online.
Okay.
So they recorded it and had it in post-production. And so you will be able to go on Declua Equine and purchase the online tutorial. And then the next one is going to be in February. It's the second weekend of February. Don't quote me on those dates in my head. And that one is actually going to be on normal and abnormal biomechanics and how should a thoracic sling function? How should a hind end function? In order to attend the second one, you have to view the first one online, which is about 8 hours of material.
Wow.
Because you can't worry about how they move if you don't recognize their standing postures that are abnormal. And so it will be a series. Then we will have a later one in the spring that is on the effect of tack and equipment and rider effect on the horses using the ethogram of Sue Dyson's to kind of evaluate horses. And so it's going to be awesome. All day Saturdays are lectures, and then Sunday are case presentations. So those that are attending can bring a case that's been bothering them or they're not really sure about, and we talk about it with a panel of veterinarians. And the last one will have saddle fitters and things like that as well. So it's been the first one was a great time. And like I said, if you can't make it to Ocala, they will be up online.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll put a link to it in our show notes so you can just scroll and find the link directly to this. I do appreciate you joining me, and thank you, Dr. Workman.
Non-GMO whole food nutrition is the basis of the entire Daily Dose Equine program. We never forget that natural is better and simplicity is key. Daily Dose Equine uses non-GMO whole food ingredients like alfalfa, timothy, peas, sunflower seeds, and flax. Daily Dose Equine doesn't use fillers, bulking agents, or leftovers from other industries, so you can feed less, yet improve body condition and energy. And our feeds are free from chemical residues and glyphosate. Find the perfect formulation for your horse at dailydoseequine.com. Select Daily Dose Equine formulations are available nationwide through Chewy.com and TractorSupply.com.
So, Jamie, I know we talked earlier about me seeing pics of you riding Pharaoh, which is your first time you're riding Pharaoh since you got him, right?
Yes, I sat on him in Kentucky.
Remind everybody who Pharaoh is for the new listeners.
Pharaoh is actually, his name is American Hustle, and he is an off-the-track 3-year-old that I adopted from New Vocations in Kentucky. Leandra Cooper called me, said, "Hey, that horse you've been dreaming about is here." And I was like, well, I don't need another horse, but I'm on my way. So I hopped a plane, went to Kentucky, rode him. I'll take him, brought him home. But of course, there's just a lot of therapy things that need to happen for a 3-year-old 16 3-hand off the track thoroughbred. And so I've treated him for EPM. He's on his second treatment now. He's on all these herbs and supplements. He's got Surefoot pads. He's got the Theratree. So I'm doing all these things. And so my veterinarian came back out to recheck him again. And she said, well, he now knows where his feet are. So you should, because I've been having, yeah, it's really, really disconcerting when they don't know where their feet are, Glenn. And that's a product of EPM. It was just his hind feet. He wasn't quite sure where he's placing them. And anyway, so he's doing a lot better. I did opt to treat him for a whole nother month. It's just money, whatever. But I'm like, let's just throw the kitchen sink at him. So now he's doing so much better. I've been long lining him up in hills and then on ponying him on the trail and just doing lots of stuff with him. And I've got a lot more ideas after talking to these women today. But she said, I said, can I just maybe tack walk him and take him over a pole? She's like, yeah, absolutely. He now knows where his feet are, so you can sit on him. So yes, day before yesterday was the first time I was able to sit on him. And Chad videoed it and I just took a screenshot and I was like, oh my God, look at that smile. He's like, you were smiling like that the entire 20 minutes tack walked.
It looked like you were very happy up there.
I was very excited. So he's got a long way to go. Oh my God. That's why I've got him. When I showed up at New Vocations, they were taking x-rays, which is how I learned about his back issues. And I got some ankles x-ray and all these things. And I said, you guys, I was coming to see him. I wish you wouldn't sedated him. And Leander goes, he's not sedated. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah, I don't see Leander doing that.
She's like, he's not sedated. This is him. And she actually said this is a very typical kind of demeanor for an American Pharaoh baby. They're all just super chill. And he is the calmest dude. I mean, he's just so calm. So I'm really excited to be able to do all this stuff to him and help him and move him forward. And I can't wait to see what the future holds. But yeah, I rode him. Yay!
Yay! Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
And Chad was probably very happy to see you get some use out of that horse too.
He doesn't know what I do with him down there, and he's just like, so you're riding him, you've had him 2 months. I'm like, I don't need to always discuss all the veterinary issues with Chad. He just thinks he's down in the barn. I'm riding him.
Because when we hear medical veterinary issues, the only thing a horse husband hears is cha-ching.
Yeah.
That's all we
cha-ching.
hear. Cha-ching. That's
cha-ching.
all we hear. That we don't hear the what's wrong or any of that stuff. We just hear
Which
cha-ching.
is why it's maybe not that important to discuss it. Just handle your business and move on.
Right. Well, as you know, State Line Tack is a sponsor every Wednesday, and I have good news for all of you. It's the holidays, and starting at Radiothon, they are offering a 30% off code, and the code is HRN. By the way, our coupon codes are always HRN for all the companies that we deal with.
I just add them into everything I buy and see if any of them work.
I think a lot of regular listeners do that. So it's HRN. You're supposed to get 30% off your order. So definitely give that a try. Do not forget it when you're placing your order with State Line Tack. I know a lot of you are ordering gifts and things like that right now. So I just wanted to make sure you all remember.
I'm shopping right now, but I'm shopping for me. So
okay. It counts for that too. It doesn't have to be a gift. But
the blanket that I like is on sale for $78, and it's usually $120. So I'm super excited.
All right, there you go. HRN. Remember,
it's
State Line
free,
Tack.
Glenn.
That's right. It is it's free. StatelineTack.com.
Time to learn why some days you're embarrassed to be part of the human race. In Jamie's Weird News.
I know we're running a little long, but I feel like it's a Wednesday staple to do the weird news.
We were very serious today. We have to end on something not serious.
Well, Glenn, there is something very serious I have to discuss as a first story. So sorry, but I just want to thank all the people that support Weird News by reading news and going, dude, that's so weird. I'll email it to Jamie@horseradionetwork.com, just like Delia, who, by the way, sends me the most bizarre, awesome stuff. Delia, Ina, Laureen, Danielle, Jenny, Julia, Rebecca, thank you guys all for sending me Weird News story. We're going to start with this very important one, Glenn, and it's serious because, when you go to Harvard You go to, let me see where, University of Texas, Arizona State, Stanford, UC Berkeley, University of Florida, yeah, and Harvard. You expect only the highest level of education. And now, Glenn, when you go to any of those colleges, you can now spend time learning about 33-year-old pop star Taylor Swift and her world.
They have classes.
That's right. They have a Taylor Swift
Is it how
class.
to make yourself a billionaire class? Is that what it's called?
They are focusing on her evergreen songwriting, and they're going to draw parallels between Swift's enchanting lyrics and works by other famous female masterpieces. And also, you're going to learn groundbreaking things. Okay, groundbreaking things about
like how to write songs about your exes.
Basically, you're going to learn kind of to read between the lines of what she's sometimes saying. But yeah, it's called Taylor Swift and Her World, and another college calls it Musical Storytelling with Taylor Swift and Other Iconic Female Artists.
They're going to be the fullest classes at that college. They're going to need a stadium to do these classes.
We will learn how to think about illicit affairs and hoaxes, champagne problems, and incomplete closure.
Oh, my God.
That is on the course description from Harvard.
Did you see the video when she was down in Brazil, was it? I think Argentina, Brazil, one of those two. Did you see the video of her escort, of her driving through the streets? It looked like a president was in town. They had all the traffic stopped. There must have been 20 police cars leading the way, and they had the street completely cleared, and it was Taylor Swift coming through to the concert.
All right, go girl. You live it. You made it.
More than most presidents, I would say.
Oh, man. Don't leave the keys to a forklift in the forklift key holder thing. And if you do leave the keys in a forklift, don't park it next to a middle school. Okay?
What'd they do?
A 12-year-old boy in Ann Arbor, Michigan, stole a forklift and led police on an hour-long chase at like 20 miles per hour. And they drove all the way through Ann Arbor. And finally, he even got out of city limits, and they had to like dispatch the next town over's police to come and take care of it. He drove this. So this 12-year-old boy steals this forklift, hops in it. There's a total video of the whole thing, which is fantastic. Body cams are amazing.
The 12-mile-an-hour chase down the road.
Yeah, dude, it got up to like 25 miles an hour.
Really?
He was like hauling mail. Apparently, he hit like 10 cars. He just kept banging into things. I think one of the quotes from the police in the video of the pursuit is the Ann Arbor Police Department says, "He's lowering the hooks. Don't go in front of him." This is a bad dude, man. This kid was chased by police for an hour driving a forklift. I don't even know how he knew where he was going, how he knew how to drive a forklift. His identity was not released because he is a minor, but shocker, he was taken in custody Saturday night and put in the juvenile detention center.
I wonder can you imagine his parents, the bill they're going to get?
Or do you think his friends were like, he thinks he's like super cool because he did that, and like your life is ruined because you did that because you're an idiot. Sorry.
Usually at this point we say alcohol and drugs are a problem, but I'm kind of thinking that's not the case in this one.
That's probably not the case. But you know what? Give me the next calendar. Drugs are bad, and you shouldn't sneak drugs into when you're trying to visit your friend who's also in jail, especially if you have a rap sheet including DUI, resisting arrest, marijuana possession, fleeing or eluding police, possession of drug paraphernalia, leaving the scene of an accident, disorderly intoxication, driving without a license. If all this are on your rap sheet and you're going to visit a friend in jail, don't bring him drugs. However, just know that if you have that kind of rap sheet and you are going to take your friend drugs, you can't hide it in your underwear. More specifically, You can't tape it to the underside of your body parts in your underwear. Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be real cool.
Yeah, I got it.
So they found a plastic cylinder containing meth in that previously described location. And he goes in and they're like, excuse me, we're going to pat you down. They're like, what is this? They take him in. They undress him and found this item. And what did he say, Glenn? What did he say?
It wasn't mine. I don't know how it got there.
He goes, it's not mine.
That's the Florida line. It's our state motto.
It's not mine. I didn't do it. He did not place the cylinder in his underwear, he told the sheriffs, but speculated that it was somehow, quote, placed there while he was asleep.
I cannot tell you how many times I put on my underwear and find cocaine. I cannot tell you. It happens all the time.
Taped to your wiener. And a cylinder taped to your wiener, Glenn. It wasn't mine. I didn't do it. I just got up and walked around. Now, later he did recant his statement. Well, actually, he kind of committed, I don't know, is it double jeopardy when he was like, well, I mean, I didn't know it was there. I just thought I had Advil in it. I thought it was Advil.
Drugs are so bad for you.
Oh, God. Okay. That's it. Next story. Oh, by the way, do you want to guess where that story was
Florida.
from? Oh, yeah, it was in Florida. And we're going to wrap up with the last Florida story. That's right. Oh,
I think this only happens because in Florida, we report more of these things. The police report more of these things.
No, it's just Florida. Because, Sandra Jimenez and her boyfriend, loving, sweet, angel couple, live together. Been together for 8 years. I mean, and if you look at the photos of them, I mean, you just can't question why anything would go wrong. But unfortunately, Mr. Jimenez was asleep on the couch, and Sandra, 44, leapt on top of him and stabbed him in the eye with a needle.
Jeez.
Why, Glenn?
I don't know.
Because he looked at another woman. Well. He looked at another one. Now, he didn't stab her in the eye. He pierced his eyelid. But do you know what she used to pierce the eyelid when she jumped at him and stabbed him?
Yeah.
See, what had happened was they had just given their dog a rabies shot. And she used the rabies needle to jump up on him and stab him while he was sleeping because he had looked at another woman. But second, you don't have rabies needles in your house. Like, that's a shot you have to get from the vet. You can't just buy a rabies shot, I don't think. Maybe you can in Florida. I don't know. It's Florida. Everything's weird. But see, what happened was she realized that she was like, I probably shouldn't have done that. So she left the house. She stormed out. And the police were called. She went to the hospital. He met with the officers and he said, this crazy woman, she stabbed me in the eye with my dog's rabies needle. And they were like, all pursuits, find this woman. And guess where she was?
At the bar?
In the garage in her car, asleep.
She fell asleep?
She was a wily criminal, Glenn. She was in their driveway.
My guess is alcohol was involved.
I'm sure nothing happened. It was just she was very angry because she was mad.
I kind of think over the next week we're going to get a lot of the Thanksgiving stories coming out too. And you're going to be overloaded with weird news stories.
So far, most of these happened on Saturday. So, I mean...
Okay.
What? Small Business Saturday? It is. Awesome. There you go. Those are your weird news stories. Again, if you ever see a news story and you're like, wow, that's really weird, email it to me, Jamie@horseradionetwork.com with weird news in the subject line. Thank you all for sending in your stories.
Well, that's it for today. We're going to have just a short post show for the auditors. I have a couple announcements for them. And then we are going to have no show tomorrow. We're dark. Actually, it was supposed to be Horse Husbands, but because of Radiothon, we did not get to record it. And also Rich was sick, too. Just like everybody's been sick here lately. So we'll get back to that. But Friday, we're going to be here, and we're going to announce a bunch of prizes for Really Bad Ads this month. And anybody that contributed last month will be added to those prizes, so you don't worry. But we do have prizes for you this month, and we'll announce those on Friday. And then I cannot believe we're going to be in December. That's just crazy. This year just started.
What happened?
What is up with this?
I'll give you one more weird news story in the post show.
Okay.
It was not safe for work. Spay neuter don't.